Welcome to this CG Cookie. Oh my gosh. I don't think I pushed live. Oh, I did. No, never mind. I'm sorry. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CG Cookie weekly Wednesday live stream. We do these every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Time, and that's -6 GMT if you're outside of the States. Now, today we're going to be talking about laziness and fear. And typically with these live streams, if you're new to them, I post the topic about an hour or two ahead of time, but I will give you a heads up on what we're doing on next week's. So for next week, what I have written down, where did I put my post-it note? Here it is. So for next week, we are going to be doing a stream on gaining followers. And then the week after, it's actually an exciting one because I've been talking with our web developer, and we are going to be creating our contest banner on that week. So I'm very excited because I know a lot of you have been asking about the contest, and it keeps getting pushed back because we're trying to integrate it on the site itself, and it's almost done. We just have a little more tweaking to do, and then it'll be out there. So stay tuned for that. If you guys have any questions, please put @CGCookieConcept before the question so I can see it right away. And then also, oh, your makeup's on spot. And then also, while we start these streams and while we're waiting for people to jump on, I'm going to finish the marketing post. And if you guys could put where you're watching from, it's always a joy to see where you guys are watching from around the world, just because it's no longer just a local show like it used to be when I first started off. It was like I would get some people from the Midwest, and then it just kept growing and growing, and now it's all over the world. It's always cool to see where you guys are coming from. So if you guys can put that, I will push the remainder out here. Oops. This needs to be now. And the way that we're going to be doing the stream is not only are we going to be talking, because this is kind of continuing where we left off last week, talking about the 5 big artist mistakes, and you can watch it on YouTube if you want to check that one out. But we're essentially going to be giving some real talk, I guess, and just coming from personal experiences. And I feel like a lot of this isn't meant to discourage you. I guess just give you guys more insight from what we've learned and what we're still continuing to learn. And I feel like fear and laziness is something that we all battle, especially as artists. And I feel like it's something that is ongoing and something that you can't
run away from.
Yeah, no matter what quality you're outputting or what level of artist you are currently at, you're still always going to be fighting these two things. And that's something that we're going to be talking about even further on this stream. Share this. Okay, I think I'm all good with those. Check, check, check. Okay, well, I gotta do the shoutouts.
Okay, go.
Okay, John Miller, hello from Indiana.
A soft universe. I am Germany.
Trembozeld, oh, and why? Thank you, Spider Hund for following. Trembozeld from Canada.
Oh my god, I'm so lost.
You want me to get
Gypsy from Southern Oregon.
Digital from Knott's Basement, please send help. I cannot, sorry.
Oh, Zane Draws, hi from Ohio. And hi, Zane.
Ushi from Chicago.
Callan Green, hey from Washington State.
Super J from Florida.
Spider Hunt, Denmark says hello.
Brian from Hello Spanish.
Auxilian, hello from Italy.
And Ixiom from Canada.
Christy, hello.
Dave Punk, did I see you on the L this morning, bud? The L train? No. I unless if there was a duplicate of me somewhere, a doppelganger. No, I'm currently in Wisconsin. I'm pretty seated. Where were we?
Pippi from Sweden.
Lady Coyote from Texas.
Sculpting. Oh. Yay, Sculpting from UK.
Bombumbus. Why, thank you, Super J0456, for following. Bombumbus from UK.
Christy, did the stream start? Because I'm seeing offline. Uh-oh. Is it?
Uh-oh. Oh. Well, that would make sense because how would they know to say hi? Just try refreshing the page. I know I've had to do that with my computer before.
Yes.
Tigil says, I am not says there is no Tigil present. Don't send help. I don't know if I totally believe you, but hello, not.
Q from Belgium.
Exium from Canada. Oh,
I'm not saying the names.
Oh, we missed Ella. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Sammy from New York. And
Dave, Christy, Portland, or
Freya from Colombia. Oh, hi, Freya. How are you doing?
Tanisha from Brooklyn.
Ella from Sweden. Now we got you.
One of the Dundee. Hello from Belgium.
There we go.
Boom, boom.
Okay.
Boom.
So now that we are all here for the most part, let's go ahead and get started. So the way that we're going to be doing this is we're going to break the first chunk into fear. So the first hour roughly into fear and the second hour into laziness. And we're going to be drawing, I guess, personifications of the two characters. Key's going to start us off because she, in my opinion, is a better shape worker than I am. So she's going to kind of mold them out to begin with. And we're going to be switching off. So every half hour, we're going to switch off a painting. Now, so you can get started with fear. And well, I guess do both of them. But as we're going to do it, I have a lot of notes that I want to talk about fear first. And I guess to kind of give you guys just something to think about before we even get started. Oh, you need this. I'm like, what am I doing with this keyboard? Is that this is something that we are not immune to. And as we're talking about, it's not like we feel we are outside of what we're talking about. This is something that we're talking about because we've experienced it for the most part. And we've observed other artists in our field and friends and even those that we look up to kind of experience some of these similar struggles. So as we're talking today, don't feel that we are excluding ourselves in this conversation because we are not only a part of it, but a lot of it has to deal, I think, directly from our personal experience. So something to start this off. Yeah.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of YouTube videos where people talk about these kind of subject matters, and I don't think they give enough personal experience, and I don't want it to just seem like we're shouting opinions at you, but instead, I want this to be more of a conversation. So as we're going through fear and laziness, if you have your own, I guess, experiences or something that you want to talk about or you want us to talk about, please ask them in the discussion, and we will do our best to answer to the best of our ability.
Right.
And I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. So you start drawing.
Okay.
And then... let's see here. Chrissy says, by the way, Key, it was so cool finally catching up to your stream last week.
Thanks for coming to my stream.
And yeah, I guess I should say, yeah, for those who don't know and who didn't come to last week's stream, this is Gawky. She is my roommate and my partner in crime. She is definitely, I think, has a very similar mindset with a lot of things that we're going to be talking about. Oh, gosh. Why, thank you. 11111111087 for following. And I wanted to bring her on because I think it's better to get more than just my opinion on these kind of subject matters because the more you can broaden and add variety to these kind of subject matters, I think it'll give you a better range and diversity of, I guess, answers and what to expect. Yes. So, okay, let's go ahead and get started.
I'm glad we're talking about this because it seems like not something people talk about, and people just assume that a lot of artists are just making art and not thinking about the human aspects that might be behind the whole thing when making art. So this is definitely kind of humanizing art a bit more than we normally do.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, I'm going to keep that up. Okay, so to start off with fear. So the reason that we're doing fear and laziness is because, in my opinion, they go hand in hand. You start.
Okay, what? Oh, I gotta draw, right?
Yeah, you draw.
Am I drawing?
Yeah, I'll talk while you're drawing, and then while I'm drawing,
aren't you
can be
gonna
talking.
put the thing so they can see the drawing?
Oh, sorry. This whole time, I'm like, why aren't you drawing like you can go?
Hello.
Why, thank you, Ed Winter
Don't touch
00
the
for
mouse.
following. Sorry, wait, let me get this.
Let me know
where I
when
can see
start.
the following. All right, go.
Okay.
Go.
We
It's all you.
can work now.
Okay. So, to start off, we're going to do fear for the first hour, and I think fear is probably the most crippling. I would say laziness is up there too, but I think fear hurts a lot of artists, especially starting out. I think laziness can definitely hurt the artists that are younger and just starting to get into it, but I feel like laziness is something that we all have, but those that are passionate when they're starting off, I feel like they don't have that same fear that I think laziness is kind of for everyone, but fear I feel like is more selective. Well, thank you, Bazookaok, for following. And thank you. Oh, wait, don't. No, I missed it.
What did you do?
You pulled up in a... There we go. You're good. And I feel with fear, when you're younger and you're an artist, you just draw because you're passionate about it. You don't have any stigma of what's good, what's bad, especially when you're like a kid. And then going through grade school, you start to kind of recognize your skill level, quote unquote, and that what you're drawing is starting to look like what you're seeing. So it becomes less about these abstract, kind of fun drawings where it's like if you want to draw a dragon, you don't care about proportions, you don't care about anything that now we can't not think about, where it's like constantly on our mind of like, do these scales go in the right pattern? Does it make sense where the fire is being breathed out of? And these are good questions to be asking yourself while you're drawing. I don't want to say that that's bad, but as a kid, you don't care. You just really want to draw a dragon. So I think as you get older, that's when this fear starts to creep in. And the fear comes from maybe recognizing your actual skill level when you look at like a grandmaster, someone that is very experienced. Now, I feel like kids can go one of two ways at that point. They can either break off and be inspired and be like, man, I want to be just as good as them, or like, I want to be better, or I want to be the new version of them. Or they go into the, I will never be that good. I will never reach that amount of quality. And then you start to see these two kind of paths of these artists and what ones they go down. And the one that goes down fear, it's going to be a very difficult journey. And that's why the sooner that you can kind of kick this in the butt and move on with your life, the better. Because fear is something in my mind that is self-inflicted. And it's not to say that it's easy to just write it off when you're younger, because when you're younger, there's a lot of factors that have to be put into play. And that can be your upbringing, your family, the environment that you're surrounded by, your peers. Location definitely serves a place on there, but I feel like you hear a lot of these great artists that they start with really humble beginnings in weird kind of small towns where they weren't exposed to a lot. But then it's when they kind of break out of that town, get to see the world a bit more. And there's like that yearning, that longing to see more of the world because you were almost like trapped when you were younger. So I feel like location definitely can inhibit someone, but I feel like it can also inspire someone to go out. But I do think it's good to expose yourself to different locations, to different people, to different mindsets. And the more that you gather over time, you'll kind of form a more mature, a more well thought out and refined opinion on things. And that can be said about your drawing style as well. So and also with being a kid, I feel like trauma can definitely affect you. So if you go through some really horrible personal trauma when you're a child, I feel like that does stick with you, and it's incredibly unfortunate. So I don't want to say it's easy to kick fear in the butt, especially if you went through something. Oh, when it does that, just click on the. So you click, and then you're good.
I don't know what you're just doing, but thanks.
So it's something to keep in mind. Labdallah9 says, greetings, how are you, by the way? My name is just Abdallah. It's an Arabic name. Well, we are great. Thank you for joining the stream. Okay, continuing off. So I'm going to talk about each of those origins of where fear comes from. And then, I guess, Key, if you want to then spout information, if you feel you want to touch on it as well.
I'll see if I can multitask.
Okay. So the first one is upbringing. Now, I feel this has a huge influence, well, not only on who you are, but the way that you draw and the way that you perceive your own work. Mm-hmm. So, as an example, when I was brought up, my parents were never against doing art. So they were supportive. They didn't really understand it. Neither of my parents are artistic in any degree. And they're more business oriented or more like planning. And I would feel art's kind of the opposite direction where it's more free form. But I feel like what they gave me was a sense of business and planning, and I feel like that's helped me. But anyways, with art, they never discouraged it, but I never felt like I was super encouraged either. And it was this weird mix of not having anything I do be put on the fridge, because as you guys know, and why the golden fridge is a joke between us, is because my stuff was never put on the fridge growing up. And it was something where I knew of the whole thing of putting kids' work on fridges, especially when I was like 5th or 6th grade, but I never was able to make the fridge, essentially. And I guess that gave me a goal to always work towards. Now, obviously, it's not like I still have this lingering want to be on my parents' fridge. I'm sure they would put some of my, or maybe not. Maybe mom was like, get good first. Like, we'll think about it once you become an actual artist. But I feel like that gave me motivation, and they kind of let me learn on my own. sometimes I feel like parents that are too supportive, they're like putting their kids in all these classes and they're kind of like shoving it down their throat. And sometimes that can be detrimental because then the kid might not be interested in it anymore. They feel like there's this pressure now to be better at what essentially was their hobby. And I don't think with your own, well, thank you guys for sending me golden fridges. I think with your own kids, I think it's good to be supportive, but I don't think it's good to be overwhelming. So if you see that they're interested in something, I definitely think you should be able to, especially like art, get them sketchbooks, get them the tools for it, but don't necessarily be like, okay, we're signing up for 4 art classes this summer. And yeah, that might help the kid with their technical skill, but you might kill some of that passion. And when you lose the passion in art, I feel like that's when you really run into troubles. All right, the next one is your family. So with anything in life, you always want to impress your caregivers. And I think especially with your parents or even your siblings, you want to impress them on some level. So with art, I feel like sometimes they don't understand the levels of quality. Because I remember even with my mom, yeah, she would, anything I drew was great. It never really was, I never heard feedback other than, oh, that's nice. Or, oh yeah, good job, Tim. Like they never asked me about what the drawings meant or any of that. So I don't think my parents were as into it as some other parents. And I did think, yeah, that made me want to look outside of my own family to get some reception that where people could relate to it. And I think that's why nowadays I feel like I can connect with so many other people.
I feel like without the internet, I wouldn't really be the artist that I am today because, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat where my dad was like, oh, yeah, I guess that's good.
Yeah.
Or, you know.
You have to broaden your audience.
Yeah. Find other people that might be, like, into the same things as you are.
Well, thank you, AVBN5000, for following. And, yeah, I guess that's the easiest way to explain it. I feel like you have to broaden your audience, and then you'll see more of a reception. So don't just... Okay, so to fix this... Nope. You just click on this pen, the top button, until you get the crosshairs. Then you're good. I know, it's kind of weird. So yeah, next is the environment you grew up in. So I grew up in what my friends lovingly called a bubble, where everything was very the same. Everyone had very similar mindsets. It was the same level of income for our family's wealth. And I felt like it wasn't until college where I was really exposed to the world. I felt like I had this very slanted perception of what type of people were in the world and the type of reactions that I would get from my art or what type of art I was supposed to do. Or even with personal experiences, I felt that most people had a very similar upbringing to myself. And I learned very quickly in college that was not the case. I feel like it was almost polar opposites. And that really made me realize how, I guess, one, I felt very fortunate to have the upbringing I did, but two, that I really need to get to know these people and their stories and their experiences because one, I felt like they were much more interesting than I was, but their art reflected that. And it intrigued me because I realized how static and actually, if I was honest, kind of boring my work was. And I think that's because it reflected how static and kind of boring my life was up until college. So I think the more interesting of a person you become, it will then reflect in your art. So I think putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable or unknown or trying to become a better version of yourself will then help your art because then it will reflect on your experiences and who you know.
Oh man, that can go into a whole lot of things, like how fear can keep you from trying new things. Whereas I think trying new things is what's going to help you conquer your fears.
More than anything.
Yeah.
Let's see what I have next. Okay, peers. So your peers are important, but there's a balance to this. So we're going to talk about both extremes. So the first thing is if you don't have any peers, you don't have any art friends, yeah, that sucks. I feel like when I was in high school, I didn't have anyone to talk to about art. I had my art teacher, and she was great. She's kind of mean, but she was great. But I didn't really have anyone to balance my work with or to compare, contrast, and really grow as an artist just from my age range that was around me because it was a big fish, little pond situation where I was always considered the best artist in my class, but it was with a bunch of people that didn't do art. So, like, what kind of an accomplishment is that? And then when I went to college, it was kind of hit me in the face pretty hard on I'm not a big fish anymore. If anything, I'm one of the smaller fish in a much bigger lake at this point. Why, thank you, a wild predatory appears, I think that's it, for following.
I think now, though, with the internet being as big as it is, it's a lot easier to feel like a really, really small fish nowadays compared to before, where we didn't really have the internet as, like, big now, where you weren't being exposed to so much art all at once. So, yeah, it definitely is a lot harder if you're not gradually being exposed to art.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, it's very easy to compare yourselves to bigger name artists. And we'll talk about that too. And because I know the feeling of I'm not good enough. Oh, and for you, those of you that are asking these questions or stories, if you want me to share them on the stream, please put at CG Cookie Concept before. That way I can read them aloud, because there's a lot of like paragraph ones. And if you want me to share them, I'll definitely share them with the crew. Want me to turn touch on?
No, I don't like touch.
So it's just 2 fingers.
Ooh. Okay.
You got it. Okay. Oh yeah, so then the peers. So with the polar opposites. So when I went to college, it was really great because then I met a lot of friends that were very critical of my work right away. I mean, yeah, we were being nice to each other because we're new. But honestly, there were a lot of people that gave me tough love, and it was pretty blunt. My best friend that was in college, her name was Nubia, or one of them. I had 3 really close friends, but Nubia specifically was very similar to me in the quality and skill level that we were at, but I felt she was a little better. And when I met her, we had like this instant rivalry. And before we were friends, we were rivals, and we always wanted to one-up each other. And I think because we could recognize that we were so similar in a lot of ways, and then people always compared us to one another, so it was just natural that we would develop this rivalry. Well, sooner than later, well, thank you, Bits and Crafts, for following. Well, sooner than later, we started sitting next to each other in all these classes. I think a lot of it was just because we wanted to see what the other was working on, and we started talking, and we became friends very, very fast. But what I still appreciate most about Nubia in college was she never, I don't want to say she never complimented my work, but she never let me get off easy. She was always saying what was wrong with my pieces or what could be improved on whenever I showed her something new. And
Jim, it's not working.
what?
It's not working.
What's not working?
Something's not working. I can't draw.
This is the eraser. So I'm teaching Key how to paint today as well.
What's the color picker?
It's option.
Oh, it wasn't working before.
You're right. Get that out of there.
Okay. How do you turn touch off?
So then to zoom in and out, it's command and then plus or minus. Learning. And what was great about that is then I was no longer just always complimented like I was in high school. Instead, I had people that were expecting more of me. And that was the first time I really started to challenge myself, where in high school I felt very much patted on the back. Everything I did was acceptable. And then I decided to be more than acceptable. And I think that's something that peers can definitely help you do, because they push you. And it's uncomfortable sometimes and you're frustrated. I was so frustrated with Nubia sometimes. I'd be like, can you just once tell me I did a good job? But hindsight, I'm glad she never did. And I think now we're a little more kind to each other because she works at a lottery place and I'm doing CG Cookie for the most part. And I think it's easy to look back and reflect. And when we hang out, we don't want to talk about art as much as we just want to catch up with one another. Anyways, the opposite end of that is what I was talking about, is when you have your friend group that are just saying, oh, look how great everything you do is.
So
everything
great.
You're doing is perfect.
You're
I can't even see
perfect.
anything wrong with this.
Don't worry, you're perfect. Anything you do is perfect.
It is super harmful to have friends like that. Yeah, it's nice to have people on your side, but in the
Yes.
long run, that's actually going to hurt you, and
Yes.
those are not the type of friends that
You'd-
you want to hang out with.
If you get mad at a friend for taking someone else's side, you need to think about maybe what's going on. Because you want friends that are going to have opinions that are more honest.
Yeah. I mean, how often do you and I get kind of upset with each other when we're not like meeting the other's expectation?
All the time.
All the time. And it's one of those, it's like, what's that saying about how other people can usually see you better than you see yourself? And it's the idea that I can recognize when I'm doing, like within art specifically, when I'm kind of just coasting. But when
And
you
we
hear,
call each other out for it.
yes, but then when you hear that outside person telling you it like really starts resonating. It becomes more real because then before you might be like, oh, I'm sneaking by, like no one's watching me, I'm under the radar. But no, your friends can see that you're coasting and they'll call you out for it.
Mm-hmm.
So with having, the other thing that having peers that are just always complimentary is then you can start to build up this false arrogance. And
Oh boy. Ooh.
everything you create is top notch. And I feel like it's really easy to slip into the idea of, well, everyone's praising me. I'm obviously doing things right over and over. And every time I put pencil to paper, it's just magic's going to happen. So I think that kind of a mindset is super toxic on your work because then you're not pushing yourself. You're not even trying to push yourself at that point, really. Okay, so moving on from the origins of fear, because I feel like those are just, and mind you, there's obviously different origins, but I want to talk about the ones that came to my head first, and that's why I want to discuss with you guys about it. Okay, next one is, I'm not good enough, and I never will be. Now, this is something that I feel like it plagued me over the recent years almost. I never felt this way in college or even in high school. Mm-hmm. But I now teaching so many kids and students, and some of them are even older than me. So I feel like age is not a qualification. No. I feel like this can start at any time.
Yeah.
But it's the idea that you're comparing yourselves to these artists that have drawn for years and have drawn thousands of drawings. And you look at the work you're doing and you just think, I'm not good enough. I will never reach the quality that they will be at. So then right then and there, you are giving yourself an out. You're giving yourself a reason for why you shouldn't try to be as good or why you can't succeed as much as they have succeeded. You've like fallen into the trap of accepting mediocrity. And to me, that's the worst trap to fall into, especially when you're younger. When you're older, I feel like you've gone through enough experiences and you've learned how to talk yourself out of situations or get over hurdles. So I think it can be a little easier when you're older because when you're younger, like everything matters so much more. The world, it can just lay on your shoulders with just one bad comment or you just can't stop thinking about that one thing. But when you're older, I feel like you have more strength to battle that.
If you let yourself have more strength to battle it.
That's true too. I feel like it's very easy to kind of coast on always accepting below average or not being anything.
Or just letting things get to your head so bad that they're just stuck there and you're not trying to let it out or conquer it.
Yeah. And like when you let that build up enough, I feel like you just have this giant weight on your shoulder that you carry everywhere you go. And until you let go of that weight, you really are not going to be free, especially in your work. So how do you well, you know what? I'm going to talk about how to overcome it after. So first, let me go through the other big fear ones. The second one that I wrote down is the fear of being vulnerable, the fear of being judged. Now, this one is tough because when you're just getting into art, you know that your quality is not as good. Or if you have a critical eye enough, you can usually assess that your work is not matching up to the work of the people that have tens and thousands and hundreds of thousands of followers.
And it's really easy to feel like really low self-esteem at that point. Mm-hmm. So any sort of negative comment could really toss you to the side, you know?
Yeah. And that's all you can resonate with is, this looks horrible. If that was the comment, that's all you're going to think when you're drawing. And something that my good friend Kat, who's a personal trainer, has taught me, and she has a lot of these self-help things, and I feel like art is very similar, where if you have a good mindset, it's very easy to create better art. And I think the same thing is true with her. When you have a better mindset, it's easier to meet your goals if you want to become healthier or lose weight, whatever it might be. So with art, I think having, when you get those negative responses, it is just a message, it's a thought. Let it enter your mind and then let it pass right through. Mm-hmm. Don't resonate with it. As soon as you let that control your life, that thought now has, like, you're no longer in control.
Yeah.
And the sooner that you just let it go, because that is just a comment that person might have just wrote on a whim because they were having a bad day. Now that's hurting you. So let it go. Let it be a thought that just passes through your head.
And it's a lot easier said than done.
Yes, very much true.
I can talk about something with that is, I had a good amount of time. Well, after college, a lot of people get the post-college depression or whatever. I spent a good year and a half not really doing art because I was worried about what people would say and stuff. Actually, even to this day, I don't have my anonymous questions on my Tumblr because I know people will say things like, it's not really worth hearing what people have to say if they're hiding behind a mask. But because I know I can't really handle that sort of stuff. But I know better now to handle, because I mean, I'm sorry. This
No,
is too
good.
real.
Yeah. See, we're not sugarcoating
Yeah,
things
we're
here
not
today.
sugarcoating. I don't know really. I was going to go with
I guess
something with that.
talk about how you overcame that and why you started drawing again and where you're at now.
Because it's mostly, I overcame my fears because I know art is my passion and it's the only thing I live for. So here we are, doing art. I can't really explain it.
Heffy Blend says, strive for
sorry.
mediocrity. That way, if you don't end up great, you still accomplished all your goals.
Oh.
Yeah, could you imagine it being at the end of your life being like, I accomplished mediocrity.
Eee.
Like, high five.
I'm
awesome.
also kind of like, we only live once, YOLO. So why not strive to be the best version of yourself? Yes.
Honestly,
exactly
I know,
what I
and
was
like,
gonna say.
it sounds, sometimes I feel like what I say sounds very much like a fortune cookie, or just like you open up a quote, feel good book and you just point and it's something that I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things where all of these quotes are usually true, but they won't resonate with you until you actually go through that experience, and then you'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, that makes so much sense now. And you'll learn that more and more through life. So yeah, you can hear these quotes all you want, but you almost have to be actively pursuing them, or pursuing your own life, and then incident will happen that kind of coincides with that quote, and you'll be like, oh, that now makes sense to me. Altered Mage says, and when are you your own worst enemy? You are your only worst enemy. In art, I don't care what you might think is your worst enemy, it is you. Because if it's, I don't know Photoshop well enough, well, that's on you.
Yeah.
If it's, I don't have a good enough color theory knowledge, that's on you. Or if like I don't draw, or if I don't have as much drawing or as much experience, whatever excuse you throw in your head, it's you. And that's why it's sometimes so tough, because then when you're doing bad with art, you really feel like you are just doing bad as a person, because your art is so correlated to your life and it goes hand in hand that it's very easy to feel that when you do a bad art piece, or you feel like you did one that was lacking, you feel horrible. You feel like you're lacking as a person. So I get that. And I'm not saying that I like I said in the beginning, we're talking about this because we've gone through this. And especially with being your own worst enemy, I've started second guessing myself with a lot of things, and I never used to do this. But I think it's because of this level of expectation I put on myself now, especially with Instagram. I think when you hit a certain follower count, you start to double think of, what am I posting? Is this post worthy, quote unquote? And it becomes tough, because then it's like, well, am I doing art for myself, or am I doing it for others?
It's like another fear. Here we go.
Yeah, and that's actually, this is one of the experience fears I talked about. But there's one more that I want to talk about when you're kind of getting into art. And, well, actually there's two. The first one is, it doesn't matter and no one cares. And this one's tough because, yeah, when you get started, actually, I'm going to be honest with you guys right now. This is going to be really not sugar-coated. No one does care. When you start off doing art, I swear I was like 3 years I would be posting on Facebook and DeviantArt with like no response, no feedback, no followers, no likes. And yeah, no one cares because there's thousands of artists shouting at the same time, and it's usually the more experienced ones that are going to get the listeners. So the way I see it is, actually, I shouldn't say no one cares. There is someone that cares. You care.
You care.
Why, thank you, fancy schmancy TV, for following. And the reason that your art will carry you through to being a more experienced art is because the only person that you should care about caring about your work is yourself. So I think if you find that early on, it doesn't matter the reception you get because you're proud of your work.
I think a big thing about that is worrying what people think about your art, and worrying about that too much, you'll lose your connection with your art rather than do art for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the traps that we're going to talk about with an experienced artist is you're kind of just responding to receptions. So starting off, just accept that no one's going to care. No one else is going to care. Because as soon as you do that, then you're like, that's okay. I'm just going to keep posting because eventually I'm going to get better and I will start getting more of a reception to my work.
Maybe.
No, you should.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, if you post consistently and the quality continues to grow higher and higher, you will get noticed.
As long as you're pushing yourself, yes,
Yeah.
beyond what you were already capable of.
I think one of the best tips I learned, it was from a traditional artist, and he was saying that if you could get good at anything, someone will pay you for it. And he was giving an example of skateboarding. If you get really good at skateboarding, someone's going to pay you to skateboard. And the same is with art. If you get really good at doing art, someone's going to pay you to do art. And I very much believe that quality always will trump quantity. And in cases with art, you kind of want both. I know that sounds very difficult, but you do want to post frequently, and you don't want to just rely on like posting once every 3 months. Because what kind of a reception is that? Or your followers just feel like you don't care enough if you're not posting frequently.
Tim, where's your round brush?
It is keep going, under basics.
That one?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
By the way, did you want to switch off at some point?
Oh, that's right.
You have to draw... What? Oh yeah, lazy.
Laziness. All right, let me just hit these two then. And then you
Okay.
can do that.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, the fourth one is you're not meeting expectations. And I feel like more often than not, it's meeting expectations of others when it really should just be of yourself. If you're meeting your own expectations, well, I mean, you shouldn't be setting them too low. It's that whole don't strive for mediocrity.
Right.
But if you're really pushing yourself, as long as you're meeting your expectations and you know that you're pushing yourself, that's all that matters. Because as long as you continue down that train, you'll get to the destination you're looking for. But if you're only looking for expectations of other people, and you're like, well, this is what is popular, this is what's trendier, this is the kind of art that I see is popular. If you only do that kind of art, well, it's like there's already someone that creates that type of art. Then again, I feel like there are people that double follow. What?
I don't know. It feels like it's going in a really weird tangent.
Kind of, but when you think about it, if I only drew art that was meeting expectations of other people, so the quality of work that they believe I'm able to hit, if I strive to only hit that time after time,
Yes.
I feel like then I'm not being true to myself. But if I'm drawing something that day, let's say I really want to draw a bell pepper, and it was like a bell pepper night for whatever reason. If I feel like just because that wasn't going to hit the expectations of what people have learned to expect from me on like social media, then I feel like I'm just hurting myself. Because if there's something that I wanted to draw, but I pulled back because I didn't think others would like it or accept it, that's a problem.
That is a very big problem.
So I'm going to really quickly talk about things that artists that have more experience might come across. So for those of you who have been drawing for a few years, or maybe even like 10 years, maybe this is a longer stride for you, I'll talk about some of the fears with that, and then me and Key are going to do a switch. So the first one is what I just talked about with expectations, and we don't have to go on that again. The second one is surpassing previous pieces. So this could be something where you spend a lot of time and effort and you grow a lot during this one piece, and it takes you maybe a couple months even. But when you finish it, you post it, at first you feel amazing. But then the next day or the days following, you'll start to feel like, okay, I need to do a new one. And then all of a sudden the weight of how much work you have to do to be better than your last one comes crashing all at once. Because if that last one took 2 months, this new one's going to take maybe 2 or 3 months. And you just feel like it's going to constantly become longer, and you put all the stress on yourself because you feel like you can't hit that level again. And sometimes when you look at your pieces, you'll be like, how did I do this? And I think it was Bobby Chu. I watch all of his videos because I find them super helpful. And if you don't know who he is, I would definitely check him out. But I believe it was him. And he was talking about how you start to look at your work and you second guess, like, did I just get lucky? Was there something where I stumbled upon and it was just like a art accident and I just ran with it, but I don't know, will I be able to find that accident again? It's something where it becomes like you're asking yourself all these questions in your head instead of just doing the art. Instead of just starting the piece, you're preventing the starting process because you are too busy being focused on how good your last piece was and feeling like you can't meet that same level of expectation. And that can be awful. I'm telling you from firsthand experience, even with my swordplay illustrated pieces, I don't want to start a new one because I am scared that it's going to take me a lot of time. And that means a lot of time away from doing my normal Instagram postings like drawings. And instead, I'm going to be putting it on the back burner. And I feel like that's why it takes me months and I only do like 2 a year because of that. And I know I'm throwing an excuse at you, and I'm telling you right now, that's not a good reason. That's a very poor reason for me not to be working on these more. And I think earlier this week, I kind of snapped myself out of it where I just opened up my iPad Pro and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it right now. Rather than me keep slamming myself for not being able to do it because, oh, the Cintiq isn't what I like working on, or, oh, it's the little tablet's not good for line art. It's like, you know what? Tim, shut up. Just start going. I think that's part of the thing is you need to talk yourself, rather than talking yourself out of it, talk yourself into it.
Yes.
And I think that's what I did earlier this week, and that's why I'm starting. So if you kind of share the similar problem, don't overthink it. Every artist feels this way. I'm telling you, I don't think there's one artist I've talked to where they don't feel the pressure of looking at previous pieces and feeling like they can't hit that. Okay, the third one is feeling like you've peaked. And this one is really crushing. I felt this last year, and I think Key will talk about it maybe when she goes on. Or I don't know.
I'll probably go through the list because I haven't really been able to put in my input while drawing.
Okay. So feeling like you've peaked. This can be awful. Kind of going back what we were just talking about, where you feel like your best moments, your best pieces are behind you, and the pieces that you're going to create from now on won't hit that. And I've definitely felt that with my traditional drawings. And it kind of takes someone else to shake you out of it. That's why I love going to Spectrum every year, Spectrum Fantastic Art Live, because I get to meet a bunch of artists. I feel encouraged, I feel inspired, and then I just go. I feel like my mind doesn't have enough time to talk myself out of it, so I just go. And
it's really good to just keep going instead of like, don't think too hard about it. Just kind of just do it and try not to worry about the consequences, because by the time you really worry about it, maybe you can be done and then
absolutely
push it into the world before you start thinking about it.
Yeah, so the feeling like you've peaked, I feel like this is something where if it's almost egotistical when you think about it, because when I look at what I did traditionally, I think of my previous pieces and how good they were. And to think that those were just so great that they're untouchable, like, that's ridiculous. So when I came back from Spectrum, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this new piece. It's going to be bigger than any of my other ones and the most value that I've ever put. And I just did it. And I created if you guys know, my lion piece. And yeah, there's a lot of faults within it, in my opinion. But I'm very proud of that piece because to me, that's not showcasing my technical ability. That's showcasing me pushing past a personal hurdle. So when I look at that piece, I don't just see a lion and a pig and a boy. I see me pushing past what I thought I was capable of. And I think there's a lot of art that you'll look at fondly because it reminds you of what you're going through at the time rather than what the art represents. And then when they're both strong, I think that's when you create really magnificent pieces. Well, thank you, Ty Flu, for following.
Ty Flu.
Okay, the last one I have my list, and then me and Key are going to switch here, are feeling like you're no longer relevant. And this can be just as hurtful as the last one, but there are times where, in my own case with drawing, I felt like these younger kids that I'm seeing that are like 16, even younger, that are exposed to Photoshop, and they are doing amazing things when they're 16, 17.
So cool.
Yeah, like the new generation, they're gonna surpass so much on the digital
Honestly.
side of things. And I feel sometimes that even though I'm only 27, I feel like I'm being pushed out by the younger generation. And this was something that it didn't hit me that hard, because I feel that rather than being just someone that's being like pushed of like, oh, you're dated or your interests are no longer relevant, it became something of where I could share my experiences or teach or just draw from my own life and try to find some connection through that. So I don't really feel that one as much, but I know a lot of artists that have felt that way. And it's heartbreaking sometimes to hear their stories where they just feel like they can no longer connect with people. And I think part of the reason is the other fear that we talked about with younger artists or artists that aren't as new to the field is they're afraid to be vulnerable. And I think when you start to put yourself out there and you really put yourself in your work, that's when you'll start connecting with people on a more personal level. So expecting a more personal connection on art that you know isn't who you are or what kind of shows you or your interests, I think it's impossible. Okay, so why don't we switch? I know I went over my time.
Boosh, boosh, boosh.
So what's this?
That's my hair. I don't know. That's the hair. That's the hair. It's like whoop, whoop.
Okay,
It's like
so
little
we'll do a switch.
haystacks.
I know there's a lot of people that want to share, so if you want to start off with those.
Oh, do you want me to read some stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I go up? Do you want to scroll up and go over them first? Okay.
Okay, we did that one. Okay, it's starting with Gypsy.
Gypsy. Ooh, that one is me. If I don't try hard and people are critical,
Tell me
it's
when you
fine.
scroll.
Yeah, okay. It's fine because I know I didn't do my best. But if I do put my all in a piece, then the comments actually mean something, and that's scary. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's weird because like art is such a connection to us that sometimes it's so personal that if someone were to say something negative, it could be scary, or if it's really positive, I mean, then that's great because then you're getting something really positive out of something that really means a lot to you. But yeah, I think it's still worth trying your best to put your all into a piece because then you're really just giving people a piece of yourself. So don't be too scared to just do it anyway. I know it's easier to say. Spider Hun, to me, I feel I have to reach a certain level before I can justify showing others my art.
That's a fear.
Yeah, that is a big fear. Like, they deserve a certain level of quality in return for their feedback. Weird. Yeah, that's all about expectations for yourself. Which one were you pointing at?
Just fear of being judged.
Yeah, fear of being judged. I think that everyone goes through growth. And not everyone's automatically a master, you know, as soon as they pick up a pencil. Oh, wow, they're already amazing, you know? No, everyone has to grow. So, and I think it's important to even show your growth online. And
People love to see it.
Yeah, people love seeing growth. That's why there's those memes where people show like, oh, this is what I drew last year. Here's something I drew this year. Look at all of the growth. And then like people get super excited because like people want to see an artist grow because then it makes them feel like it's more possible than, you know, seemingly impossible. Let's see, next one. Nikki Laura says, one of my biggest roadblocks to putting stuff out there is that because of some brain stuff. My process is super different than anyone I've run into online or off. And so I don't really know how to gather feedback and incorporate it into what I draw, which turns into, screw it, I don't want to draw this anymore. Not the best mindset. Everyone has a different process. Everyone has different opinions on processes. Processes are so subjective. I think what's important is to know your own process, but also be open to trying other processes as well. Mm-hmm. Oh my god. So I think you should let yourself try something different, even though it might be uncomfortable. The biggest things to growing is being uncomfortable. So I say, why not try something new? But you can always try these new things and go back to the process that does work best for you. Because maybe you learn something from another process and then you can use that in your other one, your main one. Okay, I'm gonna scroll. Sorry. Where's the mouse?
Other way.
Oh my goodness.
No, you're scrolling the wrong way. No, that's up.
Oh, wait. Okay, that's the one I just read. Okay, at Chrissy. I feel like for me, I have a lot of self-doubt, and that's probably from my parents worrying for me, and I don't blame them. Being a first-generation American, they thought that I would get a more safer career. So when I was like, I want to be an artist, they kind of freaked. They worry because they don't know what to expect in this career choice. They've gotten a lot better. Now all I got to do is get rid of this self-doubt. That is a lot of pressure, and honestly, isn't that how Pui is? In a way? Yeah, we have a friend that's just like that, and honestly, he's so inspiring as a friend for us. He went through so many years trying different things and failing so many times, and it wasn't until literally this year.
Yeah.
Literally this year, it started really paying off for him. So I think failure is a big fear. Did we talk about actual failure yet? I'm gonna get real feels.
Well, even with Pui, you build up your talk. The only thing I'll say with Pui is like his parents put a lot of pressure on him, especially since his brother was gonna be a doctor.
Yeah.
And I think in a very traditional family sense, you can just based on previous people's experience, doctors make more than artists, and artists starving artists. That's where that came from. So when he started finally making money this year and was starting to show his parents that he can live this lifestyle, it was like this huge weight off of his shoulders. His parents then felt more comfortable with him doing it. And all around, I saw his mood just like increase big time. Yeah. And I don't want to say money is like the solution, but I think when you strive to be the best you can be at your passion, I feel like money is just a byproduct of it. Yes,
it's just a byproduct of your success.
Absolutely.
So basically, just keep pushing yourself. I know it's going to be rough, and it will probably be rough forever, but eventually you'll see some progress, and yeah, it's like a success story. Okay.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, I'm scrolling.
I thank you, Shirius Black, for following.
Sorry, Tim. I forget that. Oh, this is weird. Okay.
Oh, we've got a lot.
Oh my gosh, did I skip one? This
No.
is weird. Okay, we're back at Nikki. On the subject of outside expectations, I feel like my main reason behind making art is storytelling, and so the response is part of why I make stuff. The art isn't complete until someone's heard the story. How might I separate expectations of quality from story responses? Oh, that one's really hard.
Let me read it.
Yeah.
The subject of outside. I feel like my main reason behind making a story. Oh, yeah, this one's tough because as a storyteller, it's
These
like...
are two different art forms that you're trying to put out.
Yeah. And something I can definitely tell you from personal experience is if you have this big story that you want to tell, put that one maybe on the back burner and instead do one that's smaller, that's easier, that's contained, and one that you know realistically you can push out sooner. Because like these big grand stories, they're almost unrealistic, and unless if you are going to really dedicate a lot of time in your life to it, I feel like it's not worth it, especially since doing smaller projects will help you learn then how to do that bigger project better. But with storytelling, your question's a little tough because you almost have to just do the art. Are they talking about...
I don't know. I'm not really...
The art isn't complete until someone's heard the story. No, I don't believe that. I think that you can create the art and then tell it, and then they'll hear it, and they can interpret it however they want. I think as a storyteller, you can give a story, but I think the best stories are the one that can be interpreted differently per person.
Yeah.
And they're not like cut and dry.
They're not
happy
holding
ending.
your hand. And, anyway, that's a whole different subject.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, John Miller. I like my style, but I'm not trained as an artist. I do what I can, but I always feel like there's something missing in my art. Going back to the basics usually helps me, but it sometimes doesn't work. When I ask others for critiques, they usually ask what I want critiqued on. How do I get out of this crazy spiral? Okay, so when you feel like there's something missing in your art, it might not just be art related. It could be a personal like level in yourself as a human being that you need to figure out. And then you can go back and bring it back to your art. So sometimes being an artist isn't always about just doing art. It's about growing as a person too. So I know that's super weird and fortune cookie telling, but like I think it's really important because it's such a weird thing to feel like something's missing. So maybe you just gotta go out there and find it because it's not really a straightforward answer.
Mm-hmm.
So Tanisha, I do believe I noticed the most improvement when I tell myself to just shut up, be ambitious, and move past whatever I'm complaining about. Yes. That's pretty much all you have to do. You have to basically tell your fear and laziness to shut up and just kind of push them out of the way for a moment and just
do it.
Dive in. Usha says, I might have asked this, but did you ever read the book Art and Fear? We have it in this house. Sean talks about it all the time. He's read it to us a few times, so we have a little sit down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely a really good book and recommend people to read it.
Even from the first few chapters that I've read,
Yeah.
I got upset with it at first.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, who does this guy think he is? And then you realize, okay, I see what he's doing here. And then all of a sudden the words really start to sink in.
Mm-hmm. Faye says, thank you, Tim, for the advice about not spreading myself thin with posting every day and really taking time to work on my pieces. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, here we go. Going through the list. Trying to figure out some things that we haven't talked about.
You're really doing that? Should I answer another one? Oh,
yeah, if you want.
Oh, I'm like, why is it the mouse? Ella Simone says, Tim, why do you erase the mouth? I might add it back. On keys.
Oh, no, I didn't really like it.
Yeah, I like the idea of it's like
it,
always like tense. Gypsy says, for laziness, touching on laziness and mental health, I know sometimes I do have bad mental health days where being productive is impossible, but I'm so guilty of having mild mental health days, but I use that as an excuse to not be productive. Do you want to talk on that one?
I thought you were going to do it while I figure out what I'm going to say.
Okay, so with mental health, it's something where I personally have not gone through something as detrimental as I've heard other people go through it, and I've always heard how crippling it can be, especially with now some of the friends I have now. I hear the story and I understand more what they meant. So what you guys are talking about when you say that there are some days I can physically not do it. Mentally, I can't push myself.
I think the big thing about mental illnesses and stuff is, I mean, I have a bit of it too, maybe not to the most extreme, but not letting it take control and you playing victim the whole time. It's pretty much, you just kind of have to gather yourself up, and I know it's easier said than done, but try your best to fight it. Just keep fighting it and make it know that you can be in control sometimes, at least. Another solution for fear and laziness, I think, is really important, is kind of related to that, is taking control of what you're doing. Don't let distractions don't fall into like YouTube holes or scrolling through social media or friends that want to hang out and do these things that aren't really something that you want to do. You're just doing it because
you want to be included.
You want to feel included in things. And I know as an artist, that's kind of something you want to do, is feel included. So social media and like playing games with friends to bond with them is a really easy source of feeling included. And
I can't wait to talk about that.
oh yeah. And I think if you want to succeed as an artist, you have to set aside time to really realize and take control, to maybe say no to hang out, or say no, like you find yourself scrolling on Facebook, you're like, wait, no, I gotta stop, I need to work. That's a really big thing on laziness. So like the fear of inclusion can really cause that. So yeah, that's a big thing.
And we'll talk more about that in the laziness section.
It's all connected. It's hard to just talk about.
It's all connected.
Anyways. Yeah, oh yeah, and when I was talking, I got really kind of like bummed out about why I have a non-off. But that's literally just me taking control over what influences come in. Because I don't really want some strangers saying certain things just because I had a bad day in my questions. So I just turn that off. And if people want to give me actual critiques without a mask on, I'm totally down. I love getting critiques. I think they're really helpful. And I think it's really important for people to be able to take critiques and be vulnerable to hearing what other people say, and really try to, if it, maybe it's not something you want to hear, but in some point maybe it does like kind of click at some point and you're like, wait, maybe this is pretty important, and you really use it to push yourself in a way that you can be like, actually, I can overcome whatever this is that you're saying, or just do your best. Do your best.
Yeah.
So, are we moving on to laziness?
Yeah, it's time to switch. Okay.
Because it's 3. So, all right. Leisure versus work.
Oh, that man, baby.
Oh, yeah. Wait, we're actually switching?
Yeah. And then you'll get the last half hour. Or I'll get the last half hour.
Okay.
So if you can make my guy more painterly, because right now it's very flat.
It's really hard to paint on this, guys, but that's an excuse. I'm really scared.
Okay, wait. Let me scroll
I'm
first
not
and we can
used
go
to
on.
this at all.
Wait. Don't do anything.
Ooh.
Oh, and I guess the solutions to fear. I guess since we're talking so much about, we're just like throwing so much fear at you. The solutions are, 1, accept that it's going to happen. It's impossible for people not to judge your work. So the sooner that you just accept that, and that not everyone's going to like your work all the time, not even like your closest friends, that's okay. There might be even times that you don't like your work. That's also okay. I think if you always liked everything you did, that means you wouldn't grow, because it's when you are dissatisfied with your art where you're like, this needs to be better.
Going to grow.
Yeah. So first thing is just accept that you're going to have to go through fear, and it's how you handle those hurdles is how that's going to define you. So the second one is to have friends, which can create to a support group. But like we said earlier, you don't want friends that are only being like, good job, pat on the back, high fives all around. You want something where it's more constructive and a bit more critical, to the point of maybe digging into your sense of security a little bit, of like, oh man, I thought I really did good on that, but they just tore it to shreds. More often than not, their only reason they're critiquing it so hard is because they can see
They really care about you too.
how much better it can be because they believe in you. Exactly. All right, so the second hour, laziness. Now, this is one that I feel I have kind of a short fuse with, especially, I know those that have taken my workshop. I kind of am very upfront and blunt with them that, to me, I hate excuses. I don't really want to hear them. No one wants to hear them. Who wants to hear excuses? So if you hear yourself starting to form one and you're like, it's garbling out, just stop. No one wants to hear that. It's just garbage. And if you were like, I think the best example is being late. If you aren't punctual and you are late, there is no reason for, unless if it's like something super traumatic or something like a family member died. Yeah, you obviously get that excuse works. But otherwise, you were late because you didn't take into account the traffic, or you took too long to get ready. Whatever it might be, it's on you. Don't blame these other reasons. It's you have poor time management. And it's what we were talking about last week with the tough love on whenever you say to other people you don't have enough time, no, you just don't handle time effectively. And I think it's an excuse that I sometimes would give myself before, and I've learned how just dumb that sounds, especially when everyone has the same amount of hours in the day. So to be like, well, I personally don't have enough time to do stuff. It's like, oh, like, okay. It's like, well, this other person, I mean, there was one person that I taught, they were a single mom and they already had a job in nursing, and then they would take my workshop at night. And I'm like, man, there are some people that are really pushing it and they have very limited time, but they are using their time so effectively. So it's like, I don't want to hear excuses, especially from a younger artist where you wake up at, and I know I did the same thing. I would wake up at like noon when I was in college and I would draw. I mean, I drew a lot, but I slept for like 10 hours and there's no excuse for that. And I can blame all these other factors, but I'm just being lazy. So I have a lot to talk about it, and I think part of it is because I've gotten upset with myself. So a lot of the times when I get heated about it, I feel like I'm yelling at my former self when I was being lazy and I wasn't pushing myself as much as I knew I could be. Because then I just feel like I was letting myself down because I knew what I was capable of. So to start it off, I'm going to talk about, I think the solution is obviously balance, but I think that's going to be one of the last things we talk about. So I'm going to talk about laziness kind of in its true form. So it's been said that in our natural state, we are inherently lazy. We don't want to be doing anything. To be active is going against what our natural state of being is. So every time you do something incredible, like go work out or paint for 4 hours, whatever it might be that is active, you are fighting it. And I think it's kind of good to recognize that when we're active, that we're doing something that isn't, well, no, I don't want to say it like that. I'm going to say that when you push yourself and you're actively thinking about pushing yourself, you've accomplished it because you pushed past that initial hurdle of I don't want to, or I don't feel like it, or I don't want to. And the fact that you're actually doing it, you should already feel, okay, that's a great start. Now, I don't think you should be like, I get a medal every time I do that, because millions of people do that on a daily basis. But I do think it's good to recognize that you are at least taking the initial step, which for a lot of people is the hardest.
Yes. Initial step's always the hardest.
Uh-huh. And especially with big art pieces, it's always the hardest to take the first step.
Yeah.
The next thing are distractions. A lot of these are self-inflicted, if not most. And I don't want people to think they can get away with distractions, especially with me. As I look up and Sean's playing his 3DS. So there are external distractions, like let's say a hurricane is coming. Like there are things that are realistically reasonable. And yeah, you have to take care of that first. But oftentimes we create and we manifest these distractions that aren't real and that didn't need to be there in the first place. And there gets to a point where they start to control you instead of letting you control your own life. And I think video games is probably the best example, and I'm going to give it from my experience playing League of Legends. To say I was hooked would be an understatement. I would play it every day when I would get home from work.
Bro, me and video games had a good 1.5 year long journey together.
And yeah, I think I would throw an excuse of, well, there's art for it. I'm learning because I get to play it, and I'm whatever excuse I was throwing around. I wanted to be included with my friends that were playing it, and I got joy out of playing it because they have that reward-based system, and if you do well, it releases that dopamine in your head. So there's a lot of things of why video games are addictive and why we choose to do them. But in my mind, it's because we want to feel, one, included with other people, and two, we just want to entertain ourselves without having to put much effort in. And video games is that perfect solution.
And it doesn't take much skill to learn how to play video games.
No, if anything, they're trying to make it easy so that they hook you. Especially, man, some of the phone games I'm seeing, I'm like, you didn't even try.
No, bro, you didn't even.
Now, is that to say that video games are the source of all evil for artists? No, of course not.
Definitely
I think a lot of us find our initial inspiration and why we want to be artists through video games. So I'm not going to go on this tirade of why I think video games are bad.
Yeah.
I think in moderation, they're great.
They're great in moderation.
I think the years that I don't play, I've only played like 1 or 2 video games, yeah, I felt like I was kind of missing out on some. But I don't think it's good for me to invest like 60 hours. But if it's like a 4 to 12 hour game and you play it for like a week, yeah, I think that's great. Now, if you do that every week, it might become more of a problem because you have to be a little more efficient with your time management. And video games can definitely suck you on that one. So a good example of like when an indie game comes out, this is why I'm really obsessed with them right now, especially I played like Little Nightmares and what was it, the Monument one on the iPad. They take like 3 to 4 hours, or what's that one with the little boy that's running through the factories? Inside. Like these games
Night
like
in the Woods.
Night in the Woods, or even Don't Starve, even though we weren't the biggest fans of that. I feel like they're games that are easy to digest. You get a good sense of the art style, you get inspired, you get reference that you can put in your visual library, and then they're stored, and then you can move on with your life. And those are slowly becoming my favorite types of games where you can just kind of play them and move on. But I think it's the ones that really demand a lot of time and attention. I think that's why
They're usually, well,
like MMOs, I would say,
not
are
to
the best
say that
example.
they're bad, but Overwatch is one of them. You can't beat it. Other gunner games, shooter games, or whatever.
Yeah, Call of Duties.
MMOs.
MMOs, I still think aren't the best for people, in my opinion.
No, they aren't.
Oh wait,
Those are
hold
what
on, I
I
need the
played.
mouse.
That's what I played. MMOs. They're a trap. Get out.
I think it's very easy to get caught up in them and not realize, oh, I just spent 8 hours of my day hunting boars. And it really adds up. I played World of Warcraft for a solid month. And then
Just
I
a
felt,
month?
yeah, somehow I kind of got out of it after a month. And I think it was because I felt like
You're
I
one of
didn't
the lucky
accomplish
ones.
anything. And especially at that time in my life, I was so art focused that I really felt it was hurting. Like I could actually feel that I was being hurt and my art was hurting because I was spending so much time and effort on this video game. And a lot of it was because I just wanted to play with my friends. I wanted to be included.
Yeah.
And that's why when we talk about your friend group, I think having a lot of friends that also do art, that's the type of friend group you want to be around.
That's
Because
so-
not only do you get to hang out with them, but you're being productive as well.
Without having to really sacrifice bonding with friends and doing what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. So now the other thing with letting external distractions control you, I think then with art, if you are very focused on art, the one that still might kind of control you is social media. And we talked about this a little bit with fear on how then you kind of filter what you post. And as much as I want to say, don't let that happen, it's what we keep saying. It's easier said than done.
Yes.
And I still sometimes, actually a lot of times, feel, is this worthy of posting? And it is kind of a trap that I find myself in constantly. But it's one of those where, okay, you recognize the situation, you realize, okay, why is this not post-worthy? And you start to question it, and then at the end, usually I'll just post it anyways, or I'll make it a story. And I can't let the fear of how this is going to be received dictate what I post. Okay. The next laziness excuse that I don't want to hear is that I'm not talented enough. And I don't really believe in natural talent. I believe that it is like a skill, just like they did in the medieval days, where it was a trade. And you had a master and then you had an apprentice, and they just taught it, just like they would woodworking or metalworking. Whatever it would be, art was just another trade, and you would learn it. So if you want to get good at art, just spend the time and effort to get good, essentially. Mm-hmm. And there are people, this is the one kind of, I would say side excuse where I do believe in this, is I do think there are kids or there are artists in general that have a natural inclination to wanting to do art or wanting to create. I do think that those will go further because they are more passionate. They feel off when they're not creating work. They feel less than. And I think those are the ones where you can really tell that those are artists. It's one of my favorite artists. Her name is Marina Abramovic, and she is a performance artist. And that was one of her pieces of advice that it really connected with me. Is someone asked her, "How do you know if you're an artist?" And she says, "Do you feel the need to create? If yes, you're an artist." Like, it's very simple. If you constantly feel like you have these new ideas in your head, and if you need to get them on paper or put them in Photoshop, whatever your medium is, you know you're an artist. And if you don't have that feeling, I don't know if art is the right career for you, because there are so many other artists that are passionate, that are hungry for it. And those are essentially the people that you're competing, quote unquote, against. And it's the ones that really want it are the ones that are gonna strive to better themselves.
I like to think of talent as just your inner passion rather than being just like you're born with it. It's something you develop in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Which goes into passion. I feel like if you're a passionate person, it'll kind of be a byproduct of anything you do, including your personality. So you want to surround yourself with people that are just as passionate or even more passionate than you are, because that will rub off on you. If you're around people like our sloth man that we're drawing, that like they just want to hang out and chill and maybe play some video games, I don't know if that's the right type of personality that you want to surround yourself if you want to better yourself with doing art. Okay, so the next one with laziness is feeling like you earned it. And this is something that I know we struggle with when we do so many cons on the weekend. And I know I did 4 in a row this year. And then after it was done, I felt like I earned a week where I didn't want to do anything. Or actually, it ended up being like 2 weeks. And yeah, I look back on that time and I was like, you just wanted to be lazy. And I think sometimes we allow ourselves to do it, maybe to catch a break. But this is where we're going to talk at the end of this laziness section about balance, because I was so far on the extreme of working that I felt like I had to even it back out, even the scales, if you will, to be more of at a balance. So being super lazy kind of brought it back down to a mid-tone. So I do think you should find balance. And yeah, I think you can take a couple of days off or give some time for yourself.
Yes.
But don't see drawing as a chore. You really want drawing almost to be your reward.
Yes.
And I think sometimes and I know Key feels the same with art, I feel like sometimes business takes such a front line that it almost feels like we're not artists as much as we are business people. And that's when things get a little messed up. Because then you feel like you're doing a lot of work, but you're doing a lot of business work. You're not doing a lot of artwork. And that's where it can weigh on you very heavy, because as an artist, you want to create, you want to do new things. But if you're only focusing on the business stuff, yeah, you might be making more of a profit, but you might be losing some of your artistic drive in the process. So I also wrote down that your priorities might be a little out of whack. Yeah. So making sure that obviously taking time for yourself, spending time with your friends and family, and whatever is important to you, I would definitely keep art quite up there as well. Okay. The next thing... What are you doing?
My wrist hurts.
Oh.
Sorry.
The next thing with laziness is, if you've ever heard this saying, I find it to be very true. It's the idea that you have to do 10,000 crappy drawings before you start producing anything good. And yeah, it's frustrating at first, because you're like, well, why would I want to get started if I have to create 10,000 drawings and spend all that time into doing it?
I get overwhelmed by the idea of how many art pieces I'm going to make in my life.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like stop for a second. I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, when you get so overwhelmed with thinking about that, or if you haven't started yet, you're like, why would I want to do 10,000 drawings? Yeah. It's like, because that's the only way to get good.
Isn't that what you want to do anyway?
It's like, oh, do you not want...
What else are you going to do?
They want that instant satisfaction.
Yeah.
And that's something I think is a problem, not only with our generation, millennials, but I even think the newer generation...
I think it's going to be harder for the newer generation.
Where, everything's so instant. But I think with art, you really have to pull back and understand that the reason these masters are so good is because of how much time and effort and studying and labor that they went into, and they came out of it what they're producing now. So to be like, I want to get that good in a year, not only is it kind of unrealistic, but it's quite arrogant to be like, you know what, they spent 20 years getting to the point they're at, but I'm going to do it in a year. If you're passionate enough and you're really driven,
you probably can do it. It's
you
just
could.
Don't get upset if you don't meet that expectation. Yes.
And I think it's not a very healthy expectation either.
I think it's really important to think about your health in all this fear and laziness. So.
Yeah. The next thing I have was art becomes more of a task. So there are times where I feel after I finish a piece that, yeah, it feels nice, but then the next day I feel like, okay, well, I am expected now to produce more because I'm an artist and this is what I have established for myself. And sometimes that pressure can lead me to not actually create it, but the opposite, where I just want to relax. And I feel like this kind of pressure, it definitely hurts you because then you're not creating. And to overcome it, this is where it gets a little tough, because I believe drawing should come intuitively, and then when you have this idea, you can't predict when those ideas will come. Sometimes you just have to like jump into a drawing and go for it, but some other times you're just waiting. And I can't remember the artist whose video I watched, but it was this great talk about how never wait for inspiration to hit you. You create your own inspiration. So it's the idea of if you just start drawing, it'll come to you.
It's too slippery.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be there, and if you're always expecting to draw only when the motivation is there, you're not going to be drawing enough.
Yeah. The next one I have with laziness is there are times in your life where you'll start questioning things about life and things that are like existential, like what is existence? And I feel like these kind of things can put you on very weird tangents where not only are you not drawing, but then that might linger in your head for days to come, and it becomes impossible to do anything but to think about that subject and then to have it just sit there. And you don't really get any answers from it. I mean, I think it's good to explore these type of questions.
It's great to explore questions, but also...
But you can't just sidetrack or sideline everything else in your life.
Yeah, I think it's important when you're having these existential crises is to accept that they exist.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're letting it linger, it's real tough. It's real tough. I do it all the time.
Yeah, so I think when you're starting to question things, and it might be even more sad. So like, let's say you went through a recent breakup. We've all been there in the house.
Oh, yeah.
That can linger for months and sometimes even years. And I feel like that can actually fuel your creativity. It's that whole joke with Adele on how the reason she's so popular, or the 21 album was so good, is because she was pulling from such a source of pain and heartbreak. That 25, she was kind of trying to do the same thing, but it wasn't as, it didn't get the same amount of number.
Because maybe it wasn't as genuine.
It wasn't as genuine, absolutely. And she was kind of pulling from past experiences that she saw worked. Mm-hmm. Now, mind you, I still love the new album, so yeah, 25 is great. But 21 was so strong because those emotions were raw. That's how she felt at that time. Mm-hmm. And then she put them out in her art. So to me, that's great art.
If you're having an existential crisis, draw it.
Yeah, honestly. And yeah, you might get some pieces. I remember when I was like upset at my friends for feeling backstabbed. Of course, my art was like these backstab drawings or like these obvious physical pain. But I think that's good to draw. I think it's good to put how you feel in your work. And then the hardest part is going to be posting it. So you're also showing your vulnerability, not as an artist, but as a person. Oftentimes I think we forget that artists are people and that they're not these machines that, just calculate how long an art piece is going to take and then they push it out and then they do a new one. Like they're people with lives and families and ups and downs and experiences.
And feelings, and they like to eat.
So I think it's oh gosh, what were we even talking about?
Sorry.
I was like trying to think of like, yeah, people do like to eat.
Just hampering this whole thing. I'm not helping.
So yeah, whatever we were talking about, that was the statement. All right, the last one that I have written down here before we talking about when you're starting to do a lot of art, then what are the things that come with laziness? And the last one is adapting bad habits. Now, oftentimes these are based on the people you surround yourself with, i.e. your friends, and especially like what you're talking about, if all they want to do is play COD for 4 hours each night, yeah, it's probably not the friend group you should be hanging out with every night. You can still be friends with them. There's a lot of high school friends I have that I don't talk to for sometimes months on end. But when I meet up with them, it's like yesterday. And those are the true friends that you will make in your life because they understand that you're busy or that you have a different lifestyle and that you can't be everyday friends, as they call them, and that instead you kind of have to give each other time and space. And I'm giving my high school friends that I have time to live their life. And then when I see them, we catch up and we enjoy each other's company. So those are the kind of people you want to surround yourself. Not the ones that are like, if you don't play COD with us each night for 4 hours, we don't really want to hang out with you.
We're not friends with you anymore.
Well, thank you, GP Creations, for following. All right. So the next thing that I have is with experienced artists and the laziness that comes with them. And I'm going to put myself in this bubble because I feel like I definitely have done these before, and I'm recognizing them and I'm sharing them with you guys just to know that these are traps that you might fall into and how to get out of them. The first one, coasting. And this is what we talked about heavily on our stream last week, and it's the idea of hitting a point where you're dissatisfied with your work, growing as an artist, going uphill, and then you reach a point where you're like, yes, I feel good about my work, and then you start coasting. Now, you can coast for it. This doesn't mean just like a week. You can coast for years. There are some artists you look at and you're like, man, they haven't really pushed themselves there. I feel like they've actually gotten worse over the few months because you can see it. You can see that they're coasting. And even with myself, I think the best example was recently I posted 3, they were like pretty portraits of people. And those were my last 3 Instagram posts. And I was like, Tim, you cannot allow this continue. So I really pushed myself to do something kind of weird. And I wanted to show that I'm not just one type of artist that relies on what is reaction-based art. And that's what I'm going to talk about now, where as you post a lot of things, and if you have a following enough where you can kind of decipher what is your best liked pieces versus the ones that don't get as much likes, there is a very big temptation to only do art that is getting likes, that is getting comments. And trust me, it is a tough battle because you're like, well, this is
It's also just easier because you can turn your brain off if you just keep doing the same thing over.
Oh, yeah. And it's the idea that you start to recognize social media is a game. That's why me and Key always call it, or refer to it as playing the game. Because we know there are certain things that will react better or get a better response on like Instagram, let's say, than other drawings. And we might do some of those to play the game. So there are times where you can play the game. I think if you're still enjoying what you're drawing or if you're having fun with it, I think it's okay to an extent. I think there comes a point where if you do like 10 of the same thing in a row, you need to really have some self-reflection or maybe have your friends roast you because that's not the way to grow as an artist. Yeah, it's good to show that you can push out quantity, but it's not good to allow. And if you see your friends doing it, be honest with them. I promise you they will appreciate it in hindsight.
Tim tells me all the time.
I tell Key every time I see her.
And when I do it again, he dies a little inside.
And I think that's why even with my friends, they'll tell me, and I'm not going to say who told me the thing with the profiles, but, I definitely could feel it myself. And it was one of those things where it's like, come on,
It's
Tim.
everyone that's calling him out.
Yeah. And you kind of have that moment where you're like, okay, let's get serious. Let's push ourselves here. So coasting, I think, is a true, I'm going to say problem, actually. But there is some benefits to playing the game. And we're going to talk about that next week a little bit with gaining followers. Mm-hmm. And with everything in life, there's a balance. So you can play the game, but you also have to have some artistic endeavors that you're also pursuing. Because if you're only playing the game, that's when you start to see art
That's when you're not really putting yourself into it anymore. Because you did it once and it worked. So you just do it again. So you're just doing something you did already.
And then the art feels stale.
Yeah.
And then the artist feels like they're lacking personality. And that's when you see art that feels like it's coming out of a machine. Mm-hmm. And I think there's some bigger name artists that I'm not going to mention them personally. I don't think that's good to bad talk other artists. But you definitely talk with your friends and you start to recognize that they kind of see similar patterns that these artists that you look up to are following. And you're like, man, I don't know if they're able to see it. And that's why we mentioned earlier about how others are able to see you better than you're able to see yourself. Okay, so then the next thing was talking about reaction. So when you base your art on the reaction that you get. So I know me and Key have fallen under this trap probably more than once. And this year alone, I would say, speak for myself, I would say many times. I have drawn something because I wanted to push something out that was just keeping me up to date or up to quota, if you will, per month on what I felt I should be pushing out every month. And some of them, I think, were more of just me flexing a muscle, being like, okay, here's another pretty girl with flowing hair. And they are kind of fun for me. So, like, there is enjoyment that I get out of it.
It's
but
like-
I was doing it for the wrong reasons.
It's therapeutic, at least. So, I mean, in some way, it's still good to do these comfort zone things.
Yeah. It's just when you get to do too many of them, that's where it becomes a problem.
And then it ends up kind of like, oh, wait, why am I doing art again?
Yeah. And trust me right now, it is sometimes very discouraging when you feel like the pieces that you put the least amount of effort into get the best reaction or the best
Which
feedback.
is pretty much always.
It can get really discouraging when a piece that took you 2 hours becomes your most liked Instagram piece for a year and a half, but then something you spend hours on and days really just is like on the bottom tier of what reaction you get. So I've been there. I feel it. The pressure is definitely crushing from time to time, but you really got to take a step back and look at the situation from almost a third-party view and just realize that, yeah, people are going to like something that's easy to digest, simple, and they can grasp it right away. And if there's something a little intriguing about it, it's like insta-like. Why, thank you, BX the potato. And oh my God, it's a cripple.
Oh my God.
Thank you guys for following. So it's very easy to be like, well, if that's what people respond to, I'm going to only do pieces like that. And it's not the way to go. I think it's good to at least recognize those kind of things, because then you have a better idea of the game, quote unquote. But then you'll start. There are other people that can then tell when you're playing the game. So don't feel like you're under the radar, sneaking in like, oh, here's another pretty girl drawing with flowing hair. Like, people will think this is inventive and new. Like, no, they can call you out on it. And especially if you have friends that will be more constructive and critical with you, they'll definitely call you out on it. And that's not a bad thing. And yeah, you can have fun with it, and that's okay. So you can defend and be like, guys, I needed a break. And honestly, that's understandable. There are times where it's like, I don't want to be doing an 80-hour piece back to back to back to back. And yeah, you might want a break. But don't fall in the trap of, like our sloth man here, of, well, I'm going to be taking a break for a month. Like, maybe a few days. Maybe. But I also believe in the idea that every day is a rededication, and you should at least be drawing even something small. If it's 10 minutes, something small. Draw every day. All right, so we're going to switch in a second. Let me hit up some of these questions. You feeling it?
Oh, this desk is terrible.
I know. I need like a higher chair, I think.
Yes, you do. Because this right here, like my hand like this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, in.
Tanisha says, I was working downstairs filing, but now I got to go back up to be a barista. I really enjoyed what I got to hear up till now, so thanks. Bye, Tim and Gawky, and bye, Chet.
Oh, bye.
Well, bye. Thanks for coming.
Do you want to just switch now, then?
Yeah.
I'll just do the questions. And
Joe Pasor says, here you got backpack. What is the best way to learn the muscles in the human body? So,
Ooh,
I'm on your side.
the best way to learn muscles? Basically, draw them. There are a lot of anatomy books. Tim, this is so like
I was
your
gonna
question.
say, like, I'm literally like diving into anatomy pretty hard right now, and part of the problem with anatomy is like you just draw the structures and you're like, oh, here's the torso, these are the pectoral muscles, and you just draw what you see on an example sheet or reference chart.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is nothing's resonating. Do you know how many anatomy and muscle sheets I drew in college? Nothing resonated with me because I was just copying what I was seeing, and then you forget. It's like a test that you take in high school. You memorize the vocab words, and then as soon as the test is over, gone. So with anatomy, it's the same thing. Really start to think about understanding it. So seeing them on like where they start, where they finish, and then how they pinch, how they pull. And there are things that I didn't even know of, like the clavicle bone, the one that pops out right here. It actually sits on top of our arm bone. I always assumed the arm bone was the thing sticking out here. This is still the clavicle. So it's like getting excited about learning anatomy. I think that's the best way to learn anatomy. So don't just draw what you see. Really take the time to learn individual parts, how they function. Because once you can draw a skeleton in any pose, you can draw any character in any pose, because the skeletons are pretty much the same from person to person. I mean, male and female have a little different hip structure, but for the most part, it's the same. So get to know your bone structure, because you can draw your bones, you can draw your anatomy.
Actually get to know them.
Yeah.
Don't just ask their favorite color. Actually,
Take them
like,
on a movie date.
Yes.
And I'll go that way.
Okay. Faye says, I don't understand why, but I'm terrified of doing a large piece that takes a few days. When I drew digitally, I was fine, but now with pencil work, I'm terrified. Maybe it's because the longer I work on it, the more likely I'll screw up, and then I'll be sad because I loved it before. I know you will say to just do it. Should I use a large piece of paper or smaller? What do you usually use? I think there's a good workaround with that is to do thumbnails first. So you're planning ahead to make sure you don't mess up the drawing as you're working on it. Oh, Tim, that's cute. Sorry. But yeah, I think it's still important to do those large pieces. I'm pretty sure we talked about it last week with what we were talking about. What were we talking about again?
5 big artist mistakes.
Oh yeah, the 5 big artist mistakes. How I think it's important to do these large pieces because maybe you will like it at the halfway point. I do that all the time, and I think it's still important to go past them to still see what you are capable of and to also maybe learn something from this giant mistake. Maybe you could somehow fix it in the end. You know, maybe there is some weird thing you do that ends up like changing the whole piece and really make it put together even more than, even though you liked it at the halfway point, maybe it ends up maybe not close to the end, but at the very, very end when you're making the final touches, it could end up being like, wow, I didn't know I could do that because if I would have stopped. So yeah. Anyways. I'm gonna scroll. Oh, wait. Why is yours backwards? Joe says, how much time and effort do you need to get good with art? It sounds lazy. I am, but I do enjoy seeing improvement. It keeps me motivated to work to a certain goal. Oh, how much time and effort? I think it takes more effort than time.
Yes.
But time is still very, very important when it comes to learning art. When it comes to learning, you have to make sure you're learning. It's just like the anatomy thing where you have to make sure you're absorbing what is actually being said and figuring out, like, getting to know what you're actually learning rather than just memorizing it. Learning and memorizing are two completely different things.
Very true.
So just try your best to absorb as much as you can, and that'll help you in your time learn. So I can't say how long it'll take.
I do agree with you that it is the effort. I feel like I grew really fast in college because I was putting in a lot of effort. So in a short amount of time, I grew a lot. Where now I feel like it's more spread out. I'm more lax. I'm not learning or pushing myself as hard as I used to. So yeah, I think effort definitely trumps.
Effort's big. I would say 5 years is a good amount of time to get good from kind of good. So
yeah, I agree.
All right, next question. Tijel says, would it be possible to do a quick hangout after the stream? I have some pretty urgent things that need to be discussed for your Belgium trip. Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think we can do that before we hit Subway.
Yes, okay. I'm scrolling it again.
All right.
Ushi says, I've learned to incorporate existential dread into my art. It's become my brand now. Actually, that's great. That's absolutely great. Sculpting says, could it be because you were doing that huge painting for others and expected it to be successful, but that tiny piece you made for yourself and it didn't expect anything? Yes. We were just talking about that because I was drawing something, like, it was actually just like yesterday. I drew a frog, and I was like, I'm not going to expect anything from this. But I ended up doing it way more than I should have. But I don't know. I didn't expect much from it, but it did okay. I don't know.
I would say the best example for me was my most liked image on Instagram was my battered bunnies and they're holding hands. For me, I did that. I was really excited about the idea of these black and white buns, and I wanted to do these kids, and the idea of doing the contrast with not only the skin tone but their mass and what they were wearing. For me, it was so much fun to create that. The response to that was like, incredibly surprising. I thought it would do decent because, you know, it's kind of strange. There's masks, and I didn't realize the response it was going to get, and people were interpreting it in so many different ways that I wasn't even seeing it at the time.
Right.
And I think that happens a lot where you're having so much fun with it, people will respond to that. And sometimes you
Yes.
put so much effort into a piece that you feel
Maybe,
personally passionate about,
yeah,
but people don't respond to it.
And it's okay if people don't respond to it, because I think it's how
Yeah.
you feel overall about the piece at the end.
If
Not
you're
really.
proud of the piece.
I mean, my top post is eyeballs. People have eyeballs.
Yeah.
It's not my best piece. It's not something I expected to be what it got, but it's not my top favorite piece. It's not something I put in my portfolio. So, I mean, it's all about what you feel is best for you, and do what you want to do, and don't let the simpler, more popular things kind of like tell you that you can't do more than just that.
Yeah, don't let that dictate what you do in the
Yeah.
future.
I think when you do artwork for yourself, you perform better and people can feel that. Yes, that's very true. Guava says, I'm starting a painting class next week. Have any tips? Paintbrush tips?
Yeah. I guess if you're going to a new class, because I've thought about taking a class again, go into it with the right mindset. Go into it being like, I know nothing. Teach me everything that you
Yes.
possibly can. I'm going to absorb everything that I can.
Right.
That's the best way to
It's
go
the
into
best
a class.
way to go into a class. Don't go into a class and then argue with the teacher on what they're saying, because they have more experience than you.
Usually.
Usually, I don't know. I just don't like it when people argue with teachers, especially
It's like
when you're there to
if they're
learn.
doing their job, they're trying to help you.
I mean, if they're a good teacher.
If they're a good teacher, which, I mean, yeah, I've had a couple bad ones, but for the most part, they were good. And you can learn something from everyone. Even if you feel like they might not be the best teacher, there's something
Yes.
that you can take away
There's
from it.
probably going to be at least one thing they say that's like, oh, this is going to change
It
my
changes
life.
your life, yeah. It's like when the girl at the AnimeCon told me that the human body has no straight lines. Something so simple, but you can really take away from it if you're open to being like, you're right. But when you're like, I know it, and like you kind of reject any
Yes.
outside opinion or teaching, that's when you don't learn.
I
anymore.
had a professor in my art college. A lot of people didn't like her, but I loved her because I listened to her. I didn't argue with her when she was telling me stuff, and she taught us oil painting. So this is pretty relevant to your question. She was teaching us all about color and how there's colors in everything, and then like you look at a freaking, I don't know, you'll look at a black pen on a desk. You don't paint it just black. There's a green sticky note that's underneath. So there's green that's blending in with those hues. And a lot of people argue that, no, actually, that's not true. It's just a black pen. And I think you just need to be open-minded when you go in. Chrissy says, a bit off topic, but I feel like the lower eyelids making Fear look like she's in a teehee mood instead of being scared. Oh, wait, yep. Yeah, that's
help.
true. Oh, yeah, the eyebrows. Oh, no. Okay. Ella says, I think I will go and catch some sleep. I spent the whole day traveling. Thank you so much for the stream, Key and Tim. See y'all.
Bye. Thanks
Good
for stopping by.
night. John Miller says, will you have a stream about playing the game? I'm trying to get into it, but fear and procrastination is keeping me from making the jump. Yes, that's
Next
basically
week.
what we're talking about next week. Jensen says, guys, I'm in such a bad art funk. Literally, it is the last of my priorities at the moment. I mean, I have responsibilities too, but it's certainly a struggle to paint. I think the best analogy is when you haven't been to the gym for 2 weeks, if you're going again. What tips, advice do you have for a humble student such as myself? Answers from both,
So
please.
Jensen was one of the guys that I met in London who might be coming to Belgium too.
Oh,
So Jensen, I feel for you, bud. So I'm. Let's talk about this.
okay.
So if you're in a bad art funk,
Those happen to everyone.
I always say if you can recognize something, that's the
Yeah,
first step. The
that's
fact
the
that you can
first step.
recognize it, that's big. But now taking the first step to fixing it, like we talked about, is going to be the hardest.
Because if you keep denying it, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder and
Or if you keep
harder.
accepting it. If you're like, you know
Or
what, I'm in
just
an art funk.
accepting the art funk. Yeah, that's
And then you just decide that you can't do it because I'm in an art funk, and you kind of label it, and you just follow that label for however long.
And then you kind of give it an excuse, like, hey, why aren't you drawing today? Oh, I'm in an art
I'm
funk.
currently in an art funk.
Yeah.
I gave myself that excuse with digital art last year. I was like, well, I'm in an art funk, so I feel like I got to stay away from digital.
Right. And honestly, it's art funks are just usually like a domino effect of maybe you drew like 3 bad drawings in a row, and then suddenly you're just really sad, and now you're just going to say, well, I guess I'm just in this art funk, so I'm not going to draw for a moment, you know. But really, in order to get over it, you just have to draw anyway. There's no other escape than, like, no solution than to just draw.
And I think if you want something from us, I think it would be, one, take the advice of not, I mean, it's so easy to be like, just draw, just do it.
Yeah.
But I think maybe something of like, take time to have fun and do a drawing that you enjoy doing. This is where I don't consider this playing the game. I think this is taking time for yourself. There are some days where I just need to draw a person in profile because like you said, it's therapeutic.
It's therapeutic.
And maybe don't even post it. It is for just you.
Art for art's sake.
Yeah. And if your priority list is kind of shooken up right now, make art a priority again. I think it's very easy to literally just say to yourself, I'm going to spend a half hour every day at this time drawing. It doesn't have to be that long.
It's not even like the most priority thing. It can be
like when I get home from work, or maybe after I eat dinner, for a half hour I have to draw. Just start small. Do something like that, and I promise that will lead to other things. But you gotta take that first step.
All right. Sparkle says, I always want to sketch when playing music. Wait. I always want to sketch when music is playing. So every day I sit at my tablet, put on Spotify, and see what to sketch next. Doesn't have to be good, just what pops into my head when it's playing. That's great. Honestly, I like doing this weird thing where I'll just lay down and listen to music and just like close my eyes and just let my brain wander. And it's great for just coming up with ideas, because sometimes when I just sit and stare at a sketchbook, it becomes more like, this is how much room I have, this is all I get, what can I put here? It becomes more limiting. But when you just kind of like let yourself explore outside of just the sketchbook, it's less intimidating. So I don't know, it's like the silly stuff that really gets you inspired, and I think that's great.
Yeah, go for a walk outside, look at the plants. Honestly, something as simple as
Lay
that.
face down in the dirt, whatever works.
Face down.
Xerox says, I'm inconsistent with style and I'm afraid to post online. Is it better to work towards consistency or go ahead and post my characters? I say just go ahead and post.
Yeah, Key's definitely in that mindset right now.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that earlier. Like, even if it's not as good as you would like it, you will still see some growth for yourself if you're posting it online. Other people can see your growth, and I think it's really important for other people to see your growth, especially when you're big time and you're super cool, and they can look back and be like, wow, they started where I started. And, you know, it's fine. No one's going to be a perfect artist who's always consistent. Those are rare. And
who was just talking about this, where they were telling me that I should post more because you almost start to look like a robot if you only post these big finished pieces.
Right. Yeah.
Because oftentimes we show a lot of ourselves on like a day-to-day basis when we post the dumb drawings, the small things.
Yeah.
So it was like yesterday, or the day that I was really excited about my bell pepper farm, I went out, I picked one, I was going to draw one, but then I didn't. And I think part of it was because I thought people wouldn't want to see me draw a bell pepper.
It's something we think about all the time.
It's so dumb.
Like, I have a bunch of sketches on my computer I've never posted. And I'm just like, oh, it's because it's not finished. People don't like it as much. And I still haven't posted it. And it's a big fear. And I really should just post it, even though I don't know when I'll post it. But I'll just post it someday. Here we go. Okay. Jensen says, thank you for such a good and in-depth answer. Normally, I do paint a study, and that gets my creative abilities revving again, almost like my warm-up. What you just said has confirmed that what I do does work pretty well. That's good.
Good.
I'm glad. Ari says, being on the music topic, I heard that drawing while listening to music is actually bad. Do you have any opinions? That's very subjective, and some people draw really well with music. Some people draw really well without music. Some people draw in either way.
You know what's funny is I did recognize when I was drawing, I didn't have music on. I didn't even realize I didn't have music on, but I was so focused.
Yes.
I do think sometimes music can distract you a little bit.
A little bit, because then you're kind of like, oh, which song is next? Which one should I worry? Or what? Because it is something that can be distracting. It's just like watching TV while you're drawing. Whoa, it flashed.
It does that.
Anyway, it's really up to you what you think works best for you. I do like it when I'm not listening to music, because then sometimes I do catch myself like, wait, there's no music on. But actually, that can be a good thing. So anyway, that's
I think it's useful when like you're drawing a character and you want to get into that mindset of the character, or like feel the kind of feeling that you're getting when you want someone else to look at the character. It's like if I'm drawing, let's say my character Tracy, who's very outlandish, she's bold, she's kind of a streetwalker type, if you'll say. And I want to listen to music that kind of matches that. So my energy is kind of matching the character's energy that I want to create in the piece. But then if it's like more of a sad character, like my character Chase, I'm definitely going to be listening to more soft-spoken music, more fluid and not as frantic. Because I think sometimes the energy you hear will match the energy in your strokes.
Yeah.
So energy that's more high-octane, well, I think you'll just draw a little faster, have a little more energy to it. But that, like Key said, it's very...
It's hard to really.
It's super
There's no
subjective.
real answer. Jensen says the art funk extends to not just art, but podcasts, YouTube videos, and Twitch videos. Watching you is also making me want to paint again. Cheers, my dears.
Oh.
Then that's just like a life funk. Life funks are a whole lot of funk, and it's good to recognize when you have a funk in any sort of situation. Faye says, I watch TV while I'm drawing because it keeps me focused. Well, that's great, because you know what works for you, basically.
I honestly think I watch trash TV because I only have to pay like 10% attention, and I feel like I get all of it. Where I can really focus on drawing, but still feel like I'm getting entertained in some way. Okay. Well, did you have anything that you want to say then to end off with laziness?
Laziness. Oh, man. We already went through all this, right? I think so.
Yeah.
Ghosting, your action, you earned it.
Oh, that's right.
We didn't. Did we?
Oh no, balance. That's the big thing.
We didn't talk about balance yet.
Talk about balance.
Really. Balance. So when to be lazy? When is it okay to be lazy? And when is it okay to work? When I think you really should just be working all the time, but there can be a point where I've gone to the doctor and my doctor says, you really need to just take half an hour out of like a day, at least a week, and just do nothing. And I'm like, I can't do that. I need to be working. So that's when it becomes a health issue, when other people realize that maybe you're working too hard, or maybe it's the opposite. You're not working hard enough.
Which is usually the case.
And yes, usually the case. And when you're not working hard enough, then you're thinking too much usually. And that's when the mind funks come in and really, like, they just taunt you. They're like, hey, you're not working, or hey, you need to be working on this thing, but you're not. You're a piece of poo, and stuff like that. So basically, I think it's good to work and then leisure as a reward, but also you need self-discipline to know when and how much leisure you should allow yourself before it is no longer effectively helping you with your work anymore, or whatever.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Yeah.
It's the idea that, like, if you're constantly working, it's the... who was I watching that was... Shoot, I keep forgetting these artists' name. I feel so bad that I'm not referencing them correctly, but they were talking about how if you're only working, you're not restocking your visual library.
Right.
So you're only going off of what you already know, where a lot of the best art are based on like new experiences, or you find something new that excites you and then you draw something. So if you're only working, you don't get those new experiences.
It's great to go out of your comfort zone, even in normal day-to-day basis things, like go to a different grocery store or...
Yep. They were saying do something strange. Like instead of taking the way you normally go to the grocery store, take a slightly different route. And you're bound to see something. That
it's good to be really adventurous, because I feel like that's going to show in your art. Especially when you allow yourself to try different things. And I think it's really important, even in art, to experiment. Like, don't do the brushstroke you normally would. Do something completely different.
Try new brushes.
Or, try new brushes, or change the colors from your norm. It's really silly stuff, but they can work out really well.
Yeah. So finding balance is not going to be easy. I feel like it's going to be something that you're going to struggle with all through your art career, but just know it's very normal. Every artist is going to go through this. I still go through this, I would say, like at least once a month, where I feel like I'm either far on one of the spectrum, too far on either way. I think the best way to find it, though, is one, to be actively recognizing it. And I think it's very easy to recognize when you're being too lazy, but I think it's hard to sometimes recognize when you're working too much.
And I don't think balance is ever going to be perfect. It's never going to be, you're always going to be recognizing it and making sure that you're doing what's best at that time. And sometimes all it is just like, should I be working or like not working right now? And if it's working, you just work.
Now, before we go, I wanted to bring Mr. Price. Will you come over here?
Mr. Price. Whoa.
So I wanted to bring Sean on, one, because he's going to be leaving us for a month, and we're going to be sad without him. But I think, two, I talked to Sean a lot about this subject matter, specifically with fear and laziness. I'm going to slap that 3DS. So I guess if you want to just share a personal experience that you've had with fear or laziness, I mean, I feel like for some it's just easier to talk about.
Yeah, actually,
Get close.
Oh yeah. Actually, the one thing is, you guys had a question about mental illness, and I didn't want to jump too crazy into it, or jump.
I didn't want to throw you on the spot.
Yeah. I didn't want to get too crazy with it and everything like that, but. I've been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, and it's something that you have like this weird like invisible war in your head, and you create these weird rules in your head that if you break them, you feel like an immense amount of guilt when you break them, or you're not following them. But I guess what it comes down to is just having like kind of like mustering up that strength and really, really mustering, as much strength as you can, and coming through it, and basically just saying like, no, like these rules are fake. And you step back and you look at it more of a literal sense rather than kind of what you created. So if you think about it and you think about what an actual thought is, a thought is literally just like a tiny synapse in your brain that lasts less than like a millisecond. And you're giving that millisecond basically a year's worth of time. And so just kind of basically when you start feeling down, when you start feeling like you're going through that war or anything like that, really, really try and push through that, and really, really step back and look at it more literally than like what it actually is. So that's literally my advice on that, especially with anything with mental health and everything like that, is to literally step away and look at it literally as you giving it power. So yeah.
Do you want to talk about laziness?
The whole time they were streaming, I was playing Monster Hunter, and yeah, yeah. But you know what? I'm allowing myself that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's my choice.
Yeah, it's my choice.
It's laziness is bad when you're not really choosing to be lazy. You're just being lazy.
Laziness is always a choice, right?
Laziness?
I mean, is there a bus we can just like throw you on?
Yeah. It was my choice to be lazy. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you, though. I'm glad you said that,
so
because I
that
know
was-
there's probably a few of you that are going through similar situations where mental health does cripple you from working. Then, can you share one experience that you've overcome it or overcame it?
I guess it's just gonna sound cheesy. It's just being with you guys. Really, I know it's gonna sound really, really cheesy, but it's just. If I didn't try and push past like the guilt that I was feeling, especially the guilt for when I left. I left like a full-time art job to do another full-time art job, but I wasn't happy with what I was doing before, but I felt guilty. I gave myself rules saying that, no, this is what I chose. This is what I have to do. And then when I met these guys, they really opened it up in a way and really, really made me feel a lot stronger and a lot better about, my decision to step away and start doing, my own personal art. And so, yeah.
Well, perfect. Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. I think that's all we got for today. Let me see if there's any.
Oh, yeah, Gabe's getting ready to stream.
Oh, yeah. Our roommate Gabe is streaming if you want to continue watching. Christy says the other side of the hair, the lopsidedness is killing me.
No. I want it lopsided.
Lionel, admittedly, like the whole time I was painting over, I was like, "Oh, let's just."
Soft man. All right.
No, just transform it. just kind of wiggle it up then. Oh.
We'll do something with
Oh,
it. We'll post
I
the
guess that's
finish
fine as
sometime
is.
later. Okay, the last
Leo.
question here is Joe Pesora says, usually I get good ideas when I'm lying in bed and I'm too tired to draw. Next morning, it's gone.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, I sometimes write it down or I'll do a quick thumbnail of what idea I have in my head because I'm a very forgetful person. I thank you, Minno, for following. And if I don't write it down, there's a 90% chance I'll forget. So I think having some kind of gesture, or at least some kind of getting it out of your brain and onto paper, like actually physically putting it somewhere, will help. And I don't expect you to do like a full hour drawing before you go to bed when you're like, oh, I have an idea. And like, well, light on, like get into drawing mode. Just do like a quick gesture drawing. Okay, so that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for coming to the stream. Next week, Key and I will be doing a stream on gaining followers, and we're going to be sharing our experiences primarily through Instagram, but we're going to be talking about the other social media platforms out there and the differences between them, and there definitely are differences between them. And the only announcements I have for you guys with Cookie is not only the stream next week, but next week on Wednesday at night, I'm going to be doing my first citizen stream. So for those of you who are citizen members on cgcookie.com, I'm going to be doing a stream on getting started in Photoshop. So for those of you that are interested in getting into digital art, or maybe you're still new and you're not quite sure how to get around and do some of the foundations of Photoshop, I'm going to be taking you through that starting at 6 p.m. Central Time next Wednesday. So we're going to have 2 streams next week. One is going to be still free on Twitch, and the other one's going to be one of the citizen ones. And I'm going to get in the habit of probably doing these citizen ones every Wednesday at night. So for those of you who just want a little extra learning, this is for citizen members only. And usually I'll be doing more tutorial works, things that will help you guys, including the critique stream. So if you want to be on one of the future streams, I have one set for September 14th. And if you want to watch the Photoshop one next week, there's a link below the Getting Started in Photoshop. All you do is you click it, and it'll take you to that page, and you just have to, I think it's like you reserve a seat, but I'm pretty sure the seats are endless, so reserve one of the endless seats. And then the other thing I have is the contest banner will be the stream on the 23rd. Thank you, Rasha DCMFOIMAR, for following. And then on the Actually, I'm not going to tell you what the 30th stream is. Just know that we have the gaining following next week and then contest banner on the 23rd. And then I have my full robot course coming out next Thursday. So for those of you who did the thumbnailing one and the refining, it'll be finished next Thursday. And I think you got, for those of you who submit your exercises for that course, I actually do check and review them. So if you want to show me some of your robots, I will then go through and review them. So thank you guys so much for coming to the stream. No problem. This is a cool podcast. I feel like with these type of talks, it's more of a lecture, and it is
Yeah.
more of like a podcast. But I do feel like these are so important, and I've done so many streams of like how to draw a hand, and yeah, I still think they're educational. But I think these can really help the mental side of things with art, and I feel like when you're in a good place mentally, your art will reflect that. So I think these will just hopefully share some of that with you guys. Thank you, Yoha Model 95 for or 90s at 9s for following. And oh no, there is one more thing. Sorry. Gypsy finally received her golden fridge.
What?
If you want to receive a golden fridge as well, and if for those of you who even know what the inside joke of the golden fridge is, if you subscribe on our Twitch channel for 6 months, I will send you one of these. Digital, I'm just going to bring mine with me. I was going to send you it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to meet you in 2 months anyway, so I'm just going to bring it along with some extra little goodies for you. So, for waiting, for being so patient with me. But thank you again, Gypsy, and for anyone who would also like a golden fridge, just subscribe on the Twitch channel below. Okay, I think that's all I got. You got anything?
No.
All right, well, kick fear in the butt and don't be lazy. Okay, guys? Okay. Bye, 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 bye.